it's Kim Arnold here, and today I am doing a scrapbooking process video for you using a Pear Tree Cut file called Falling Circles, and the range of paper that I'm using is Asuka Studio Play range, which is a fantastic boy range that I was recently introduced to. So what I am doing here is I have a paste mixture made up of black gesso and a sand texture paste, which I have mixed together to form a gritty black texture paste. I've used a Tim Holtz ruler stencil to put that down the side. The stencil was too short and I'm planning to put a cluster on that left-hand side, so I've divided that stencil into two in order to lengthen it so it's down most of the left-hand side of the page. I'm also retaining the selvage strip on that back paper, and I will cut it down to be 12 inches across, retaining the selvage strip. With the excess texture paste that I've got, I'm painting some chipboard cogs, and I'm also painting the cut file, which I have cut from black cardstock, and I have used the black texture grit to give the Falling Circles cut file, which is just a simple cardstock cut file, I have given it texture with that texture paste. So the black on the black, and you'll see in the next step, I will highlight that texture once it's dry. So now I'm preparing pieces for the frame, which is going to be part of the photo layers behind the photo, and then I'm just fussy cutting out another cog from the pattern paper, which I've already cut out a clock and cogs and another clock and a larger cog, and then I'm adding this fussy cut cog to that. Now these are layered pieces of pattern paper that are going behind the photo. I'm just distressing the edges. They're all just a little bit bigger than the photo, and I've cut them out of a combination of 6x6 papers and the 12-inch square papers. And once I've distressed the edges, I just offset them all a bit. So I've got another bit here, and I layer them up slightly offset, and then the photo goes on the top. So I didn't have enough paper to do another full piece behind, so I've got some smaller pieces, but you won't even see, because when I offset them and attach them into the back of the stack, you don't even know that they're not a full piece. And so that works fine to be able to use up some smaller scraps that you might have. To attach those, I've simply used staples. So once I've got them positioned how I want them, I've just stapled them and then ruffled the edges. I've put a bit of foam craft sheet that I've cut down behind the photo, so the photo pops up a bit from that stack, and then the frame that I fussy cut is going to go at the back of that stack. So the texture paste isn't quite dry yet, so I'm just giving it a quick blast with the heat gun so that I make sure it's completely dry before I start building more of my layout. And again, with the chipboard pieces and the cardstock cut file, I'm just making sure that they're all completely dry as well. So now I'm attaching a star strip over the selvage strip section, or am I just laying things out at the moment? I may just be laying things out at the moment. So I'm just testing where things are going to go. You will notice that this layout, or this how I've laid this out, is different to how the layout ends up. So I've laid it out, and then before I complete the layout, I decide I don't like it like this, and I change things up a bit. So same elements, but I just change up how it's all laid out. So I'm just having a look, seeing how I like things here. And now I am going to add some waxes to the chipboard pieces, some of the metal pieces that I've got, and that chipboard and that cardstock cut file. I'm using a combination of aged bronze metallic and rich copper metallic, and that's on all the cogs and circles and metal pieces. And then later I add some gold, vintage gold and vintage silver into the mix as well on the title. So I'm using that combination of waxes. So on these pieces, it's the rich copper and the aged bronze, and they give a really beautiful touch to these pieces. So you can still see the black, but the waxes just highlight the texture of all the pieces, and you'll really see that texture if you look at the close-up photos at the end of this video. So I just use my finger to rub it sort of on, and I also use that aged bronze to, instead of ink, around the edge of each of the fussy cut pieces. And I'm just using my heat gun now to just set that wax. So once it's dry, it won't shift. So just making sure that it's dry before I start playing with it. And there you go, you can see the wax is shining on that cut file, and it is really, really nice touch to it. So now I am going to stick down pieces. So this is a star strip. It's also a salvage piece off another one of the pattern papers in that range. And then this is like a distressed blue wood torn piece. And now I will stick down the cut file. So I'm using a wet glue. This one that I'm using at the moment is the one that I use for most of my wet adhesives, which is art glitter glue. Dries completely clear and non-tacky. You'll see that I held each of those pieces for a bit when I stuck them down, and that's because of the texture paste, to make sure that they hold. Texture paste or any mixed media work can cause glue to not want to hold as well, so I just made sure that I held it there for a while until the glue dried and grabbed. So again, laying this layout out, and I have cut this out of the video, but I faff for ages about how this should be laid out before I finally settle on the design that I stick down. Now, the title of this is Mates. It's just chipboard letters, and these are really old letters from my stash. And I'm just going to colour those. Now, the main colour is vintage gold, and then I'm going to add touches of rich copper, vintage silver, and aged bronze, so they get a motley type distressed finish to them, which to me looks sort of like the cogs, the colour of the cogs and clocks that are in the fussy cut pieces. And so I'm looking to try and create, multiple clusters of that sort of lighter goldy colour elements on this layout. So I'm just rubbing that on. As I said, the main colour is the vintage gold, and then I have just added touches. And again, you'll see that when you look at the close-up photos at the end of this video. You'll be able to see those letters and how the waxes have been applied to them. This is a really simple technique, but very, very effective over chipboard. You don't need to paint it at all first, so you don't need to pre-paint it white. The waxes cover the chipboard excellently. They really are a fabulous product for using on chipboard, and I love them. I own quite a few of them now, and it's reinvigorated my love for the use of chipboard. Now what I'm going to do, so the title stands out a bit more, is I'm actually going to emboss them. So before the wax dries, the embossing powder will actually stick to the wax, so you don't have to use ink or anything to make it stick. And I'm just hitting those with the heat gun so that they get a really nice shiny hard enamel surface on them, and it just brings out the colours of the waxes and makes them a little bit more shiny than the other pieces. So now I am faffing again, trying to decide where I'm going to put everything. I move stuff around, and I'm not terribly happy. It's just, I think it's the circles both on the left and the right, and there's not a clear main circle element. They're both a bit too heavy. So I end up moving most of the circle elements, so the cogs and the clocks, over to the left-hand side, and just keeping a couple of the smaller pieces on the right-hand side of the title, and then I'm happy. So I do think that this layout is much better. So I'm adding a Tim Holtz phrase that'll sit below the title. I've put it on because I know that's where I want it to be, and that will ensure that I can line up the photo and the title with that phrase. The phrase says, "We are fearless, independent and original." And this is a photo of my son and his best mate. It's actually on my son's 16th birthday, and I love the photo, and they really are very good friends. And so I thought that phrase was really appropriate. Being 16, I think they are fearless, and they think they're independent and original. So yeah, it worked. So I'm just sticking down all these elements, and the layout is getting close towards the end because this will be all the main elements stuck down. So that's the chipboard cogs, that beautiful die cut falling circles, not die cut, I cut it on my Silhouette, and that's the cut file from Pear Tree Cut Files called Falling Circles, and the fussy cut elements from the pattern paper. And now I'm just sticking down this title. I have swapped over to a stronger wet glue when I was sticking down all these embellishments because I had a few metal pieces and I just wanted to make sure that they stuck really well. So I am using the Stampera extra strong glue just to stick all those elements down to make sure that they're not going to shift. The elements on the bottom right of the photo, I've just used some craft foam under those so that they're popped up a little bit. And now I'm going to add some little beads. They're a silvery grey colour. So I'm going to add some soft matte gel to the layout. So just at the end of the title there, just below that big clock, and just above in the top left-hand corner of the photo frame, I am adding some of that gel, and then some of those beads, I'm pressing those into the gel, and when the gel dries clear, they will stick there and they won't shift. They're stuck down quite well. And yeah, and it's good. And they're a cute little extra touch to this layout. And the final touch on this is some white splatters. There are already white splatters in this pattern paper, but I just wanted to add a few more around and have some over the embellishments that I've added. And I'm using a white gloss spray to do this, and so that is a Dina Wakley Media gloss spray in the white. So this is a new product for me, but I heard a lot of people talking about it favourably, so I've used that. And then once that was dry, I've also added a few more gold splatters. Here's some close-up images of the layout where you can see the texture that black texture paste has added to these elements, and you can also see the waxes that I've added along with those splatters. And on the title there, you can see the different colours that have been used to create that title. Thanks very much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. If you aren't already, please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.